goes. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. I don't have very much time. I just got off the darn road yesterday, and I'm tired. But something told me to wake up and scan the Twitter land hallways, and I stumbled upon this space with this Twitter space with somebody in there speaking on the stage and saying that you have to be indigenous because of the Black Law Dictionary, international law. Okay, I happen to join a co-op, and they covered a little bit of this, but I'm not going to say I know it all, and I have a clue as to the Black Law Dictionary understanding. But one thing I do understand is that America had slavery for 246 years, and it was called Negro slavery. It wasn't called Black American slavery. Let's say it together. It was not documented as Black American slavery. It was documented as Negro slavery for 246 years. That's on the books. That's recorded in history, in the archive, on birth certificates, marriage license, death certificates. So where in God's name is something called indigenous on a birth certificate? Where is a marriage license claiming that a person is indigenous on a marriage license or a death certificate? See, people are starting to wake up and realize America has bamboozled all of us when they lumped us under a term called Black American and African American. Now, these indigenous people who are running around here claiming indigenous, they have a separate claim, but they want to conflate their claim and their identity with the Negro ancestors who were slaves for 246 years. Now, I have heard these persons in spaces explain that the evil people came to them and told they people they need to go to a reservation. Those people were separate from the Negroes on slave plantation. They were separate. Let's all say it together. The people who the evil diabolical human beings who went to those Native Americans, American Indians, or indigenous, whatever they were going by, they were living in a separate population on this earth. The Negroes were on slave plantations. It was 3 different populations in existence. Those walking around free, those on the slave plantation, and those on the Native American tribes. So these sorry human beings want to say that, well, when the evil people came to their people and told them they needed to move to a reservation, some of them stayed behind and they got reclassified into Negro. Who fault is that? Who in God's name fault is that? That you think you're going to be in the 21st century and try to paint a narrative that everybody got reclassified into Negro. No, your people got reclassified into Negro. Negro slavery was documented for 246 years. That was a separate population of people. If your people got lumped into Negro because they chose not to go to a reservation, you don't get to paint a narrative in the 21st century that everyone got reclassified into Negro. Because there are millions and millions and millions and millions of persons who have Negro on their birth certificate. It's on a mother and father census report, grandmother and grandfather census report, great grandfather and great grandmother census report. So y'all better go figure out how y'all gonna bring y'all case to America that you got reclassified. But every time I hear this, the main question comes to my head. Big Chief, CR the Great, are you in the process of helping America erase over 50,000 patents? Are you in the process of helping America and the OMB and the whole world erase down the drain over 50,000 patents and inventions? Are you in the process of helping America erase 246 years of hangings? Big Chief, I need you to answer that darn question. Are you in the process of helping America and the OMB wash down the drain 246 years of lynchings? I need you to answer that darn question, Big Chief. And all you persons who want to identify as indigenous, who want to paint a narrative that we are really indigenous, Native Americans, Aboriginal, whatever y'all want to put on at any given day, my birth certificate has Negro on it. I don't know what your birth certificate has on it. I don't know what your family tree went through. But you persons told on yourself. I think it was Sonny G that I heard break it down in very simple words, that he explained it very clearly. He was not stuttering. He sat on the stage and said, these evil, diabolical people came to his people and asked them to move to a reservation. Some went to the reservation and some stayed behind. Those persons who stayed behind, I don't know if they got reclassified into Negro. But that's not Negro ancestors' problem. That is not Negro descendants' problem. That is not a problem. Because whatever made them stay behind, you need to figure that out in your family tree. But you don't get to say, you don't get to paint a narrative that Negroes are indigenous. See, y'all are really starting to realize Negro is a true bloodline. It's a DNA test out there. Y'all didn't know that when y'all was dumping on Negro. Y'all didn't realize that Negro, when you were spending over a year and a half dumping on Negro and trying to paint a narrative that Negro was dead, it turns out, it may just turn out that that little word that y'all love so much, black, is dead, means dead. See how things work when you don't operate on honesty? It comes back to bite you. It comes right back to bite you. And it's going to turn out that Negro is a bloodline. And it's a DNA test. And the DNA test is broken down into E1, B1A. That's your blood result. If that's in your blood strand, E1, write it down, E1, B1A. I don't think there's a DNA test for Black Americans. I don't believe there's a DNA test for African American. I don't know if you Native Americans and American Indians have a DNA test to determine if you are Native American or American Indian. But see, Negroes do. Negro have Negro land. Y'all are upset. Y'all are upset because America ain't trying to remove any of these other terms. America's only trying to remove Negro because that's the one that threatens them. Just like J. Edgar Hoover told American, the greatest threat to America is Negro unity. Let's all say it together. J. Edgar Hoover told America way before many of us were born, the greatest threat to America is Negro unity. Did he say Black American unity? No, that was not his answer. Did he say African American unity? No, that was not his answer. Did he say Native American unity? No, that was not his answer. Did he say American Indian unity? No, that was not his answer again. So, y'all folks have been bamboozled. Y'all need to go read that definition on the OMB. After you finish reading the Black Law Dictionary, after you get done reading the definition in the Black Law Dictionary, you need to proceed over to the OMB website and read that definition, because that definition is going to make you want to pass out, because you belong to a racial group in Africa. You don't have an identity. You don't have an ethnicity. You don't have a recognized birthright. And you don't have a national origin, and you don't have a nation. So somebody better get on an airplane real quick, pronto, and fly to Africa and find that racial group. While y'all still trying to reshape the narrative for the term Negro, Negro came first. It was Negro slavery. No matter how hard America and the OMB and the whole world tried to erase Negro, they got to collect every birth certificate that have Negro on it. See how that works? America and the OMB and the whole world has to go around and collect every one of those millions of birth certificates that have Negro on it. They have to collect every document that's a marriage license that say Negro on it. They also have to go around and collect every document of a death certificate that have Negro on it. Do y'all get that? What is it going to take to get through y'all thick heads? See, y'all thought y'all been lying to your people. You've been lying to people on Twitter Spaces. You've been lying to people on Twitter Space. You've been lying to people on Twitter Space, and now it's coming back to bite you. Because the Negro Space by La Farmer and New Negro Republic and Aeon, they tried to explain that to you persons, but y'all didn't want to listen. You wanted to self-identify. You wanted to self-identify. So now you have self-identified yourself right over to the African continent. And the immigrants have more rights. They are recognized on that OMB before your Black American or African American term. Because the OMB took the time to spell out the word Jamaican. They took the time to spell out the word Haitian. They took the time to spell out the word Ethiopian. They took the time to spell out the word Nigerian. They took the time to spell out the word Somalia. Are you getting? Is it getting through your head now? Those persons those nations that I just named off, they have a recognized ethnicity by the government. They have a national origin. Number 3, they have a nation. That's the big one. That's the real big one. They have a nation. That's all said together. They have all 3 of those. Black American and African American don't have any of those 3. But Negro, when L.B. Johnson stated to America, it's 2 nations over here. A Negro nation and an American nation. But y'all didn't care to hear that. Y'all didn't care to hear that. Y'all did not care to hear that. Y'all didn't care to hear that to protect the history and the sacrifice of 246 years. Y'all preferred to hold on to Black American and African American with a death grip. And now you're going to get your just reward for that. Each one of you are going to get your just reward because you didn't care about protecting 246 years of lynchings and burnings and hangings and over 50,000 patents over the wealth that was built off the backs of slaves for 246 years. That didn't matter to you. What mattered to you that you called yourself Black American. It didn't matter that all those persons who lived and died in those wars, all those wars that they fought in, that didn't matter to you. It didn't matter to you. All that mattered to you was that you get to claim your Black American and African American with a death grip. So you can hold on to it with a death grip until you go to your grave. Because if you folks don't change that definition, if you folks don't find a backbone to change that definition on the OMB, your children is going to be harmed the same way each of us have been harmed for the past 54 years. Let's say it together. If you don't find a backbone and change that definition on the OMB, you and I, your children and grandkids are going to be harmed the same way America has harmed Negroes for the past 54 years. Let's say it together. America has been harming Negroes for 54 years when they lumped them under a term called Black American and African American. Now, as far as this indigenous, those persons who have the paperwork, who are part of the civilized tribes or whatever Native American tribe they are part of, they can go fight that case with America to get back, to get accepted into those tribes. But see, they too busy trying to paint a narrative to make all of us indigenous because they think that's going to help get their case across the finish line. But I don't have any indigenous blood in me. See that? See how that works? See how your lie gets tripped up? My DNA tests don't show any indigenous but 1%, and I don't even think it's not even worth mentioning it. I don't have but 1% indigenous. So your little lie certainly don't apply to me. I don't know how many other folks it may apply to out there, but based on my DNA test, if I was indigenous, I would have 10% indigenous, 20% indigenous, 30%, some certain amount that would measure more than 1%. I think that's logical common sense. I think that's just basic logical common sense. I did 2 DNA tests, and I'm going to do a third. I am planning to do a third. But based on those 2, just those 2 DNA tests, I'm Negro. See, y'all thought y'all little lie was going to fly. DNA don't lie. People lie. DNA don't lie. People lie. DNA don't lie. People lie. That's why y'all get caught up. Y'all get caught in your lies because you think you're going to be able to get away with it. But the DNA don't lie. And I don't have any indigenous in my body. I do not have indigenous blood in my body. CR the Great. CR the Great, y'all. All y'all folks who are running around here trying to paint a narrative that we are all indigenous. You may be indigenous. I can't deny that. I have no proof to deny whether you are indigenous or not. But what I do know is that you persons are realizing that your own people, your own tribes will not accept you. I don't know why they won't accept you. Maybe because your blood got mixed with Negro blood when they stayed behind. They got into relationships with Negroes, and so that reduced your amount of indigenous blood, and your blood got broken down into some amount indigenous, some amount Negro. But that's not my fault. That's not my ancestors' fault. It's not their fault. So you're not going to sit up here in the 21st century and try to paint a narrative and try to make it my ancestors, my Negro ancestors' fault. And you're certainly not going to make me indigenous because I got the paperwork. I got the paperwork. So I don't know who's going to swallow that lie that you persons been running around here for well over a year and a half. I'm sure you're going to get some folks to believe it. But you persons, it was 3 different populations in America. And that's why you folks have failed at reparations. Because Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas tried to throw you folks a bone. He tried his best to throw you a bone, and y'all ran away from that. Y'all took that information and reshaped it. If you just would have listened to the information that he gave you, he said if a Pacific group can prove harm, they could bring a claim. Let's say it together. Justice Thomas said if a Pacific group could prove harm, they could bring a claim against America. There's only one Pacific group that Justice Thomas could have been talking about, and that Pacific group was Negro slaves. How can that be confusing? I don't think it was. I think you person's self-agenda got in the way of that, what he stated. You indigenous got it, reshaped the narrative, and you freedmen persons reshaped the narrative. God is not going to reward no freedman status or whatever they trying to. I know they're desperate because see, I also go and get some background history here. I also was invited to a freedmen's Zoom meeting back on Clubhouse, and I was sitting there listening to them explain how their money got stolen out the bank, how their land got stolen, but no matter how they run around here like little Meon, freedmen was only in existence from between 4 and 6 years. Really, from what I read, from my research from the United States Senate website, it was only in existence for 2 years. But I'm hearing folks run around here and claim it was in existence for 4 to 6 years. But you have to be brain dead to think that you have a strong case with something that was in existence for maybe 6 years compared to 246 years. Something has really got to be warped in your mental capacity to think that you have a better chance of bringing a claim with something that was in existence for only 6 years maybe compared to something that was documented for 246 years. See how that works? That's persons who are pushing that narrative that we should change our status to freemen is self-serving because they probably got paperwork showing proof of that of their family tree money getting stolen out of that bank or their land getting stolen. And so now they in the 21st century trying to paint a narrative that we should all go by freemen. And I still ask them the same question that I asked C.R. the Great. Who do they want to claim all of those 50,000 patents if everybody changed their identity to freeman? Who gonna get to claim those 50,000 patents and invention? Who gonna get to claim that sacrifice of 246 years of lynchings and burnings and hangings? You freeman persons need to answer that question. Who is going to get to claim that 246 years of slavery? Because slavery was not called freeman. Are we confused there? Are we confused? Slavery was not called freeman. It was called Negro slavery. But we got brain dead people who are so selfish that they want to lie to people and tell. And they up there in Congress fighting very hard, and they thought they thought they were going to get their recognition, but America had something in store for them, and God had something in store for them. So the freemen, wherever that little freeman thing that happened out there in California, it applies to everybody. They just decided they wanted to make it apply to everybody, not just you brain dead freeman people. No, they decided they wanted to make sure they spread it around to all ethnicities. And so the only ethnicity that gave Negroes any rights in this country was the term Negro. Negro was the race and the ethnicity. Because back then, nobody was saying Black American out their mouth. that word was not used until 1968. Right around the exact time frame when New Negro Republic did the research and found out that America had harmed Negroes for 54 years. You see how those numbers connect? You see how that data connects? That is exactly when, because see, I was born in 1962. So America started orchestrating their diabolical plan to remove Negro in around 1968. Just right on the dang nose. Just when they started lumping Negroes under a term called Black American and African American. But see, Americans had a Negro problem in 1890. America has a Negro problem today because those birth certificates, those marriage licenses, and those death certificates are not going anywhere unless folks decide to burn them. And I don't think folks are going to burn their birth certificates. I don't think folks are going to burn their marriage license. I do not think folks are going to burn their death certificates. So even though America wants to remove Negro off the census report, did they forget that most persons have already downloaded the census report for their family tree? It's on my disk. I have it on several disks, at least 2 or 3 or more. It's already downloaded, and I'm not going to give it up. I'm not giving up that proof. So America can remove Negro off the census report, but America has to get my birth certificate. America has to get my disc that has my family tree on it. So you persons got a problem. You persons are going to have to find a backbone to force the OMB to change that definition for Black American and African American. I think you're going to finally have to find a backbone and stop wasting your time doing all this protesting and pull-ups and marching. I think you better save some of that energy to force America to change that definition that they have on the OMB for the term Black American and African American. Because as long as the OMB have that definition, you are nothing. You don't have a birthright. You don't have an ethnicity. So you persons better get busy forcing America and the OMB to change that definition. Because my paperwork say Negro. And that definition on the OMB does not describe me. It does not describe my mother. It does not describe my grandfather and grandmother. It does not describe my great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother. So I don't know who they're describing, but they claiming they're describing Black Americans and African Americans. So you folks better get busy forcing the OMB to change that definition. I've been telling y'all this for the past few months. Y'all let it fall on deaf ear. Y'all had to see my rooms open. You had to see my live broadcast. I've been broadcasting about it for the past few months, especially since the 28th of March, 2024. But y'all kept right on waking up. When the OMB took Negro off the census report on the 28th of March, 2024, you kept getting up, being proud to say Black American and African American. But you persons were ungrateful. You didn't care enough to fight to save Negro. And God don't reward ungratefulness. I fully understand that y'all are attached to the history of Black power and Black pride, but that's separate. Y'all have conflated it again. Y'all have conflated the two. Black pride and Black power is separate from somebody having an ethnicity as Black American. But again, you lying people have conflated it together. And that's why God delivered your just due. When you are ungrateful, God is going to deliver your just due. We all get it constantly in our life. We all have experienced just due. And we're going to continue to experience just due as long as we're breathing. And you folks have gotten a fat zero for the past 40 years trying to get reparations under these made-up definitions and these made-up terms. It's only one term that was harmed in America by Negro slavery. And that is Negro slavery, Negro. And y'all just going to have to face that reality, or you can just keep on running around here sounding like fools. Because from what is very clear, I've talked to some folks who explained it that you have to be a nation. Well, I'm not quite sure how that get accomplished other than what has been documented that was stated by L.B. Johnson. But one thing is very clear. America documented Negro slavery because they were so proud of it. That's the only thing that gives Negroes any rights in this country. Any rights, any human rights, any self-respect, anything. That's why they had to rescind Special Field Order 15. Once again, you persons didn't want to hear that because y'all was listening to those Native Americans conflate their claim with the Negro claim. You were listening to those persons who were trying to conflate their claim of harm with the Negro claim of harm. And it should have never been conflated together. It should have never been conflated together because it was three different populations on this earth at that time during those 246 years. I'm going to say it again. It was three, let's count it, 1, 2, 3, different populations in existence at the same time, and they claims should have never been conflated together. Because America know good and darn well they never documented enslaving anyone identifying as Black American. It's not recorded anywhere. It's not recorded anywhere. And seeing as how you folks were too good to identify as Negro because you felt it was outdated, it was offensive, God decided to reward you with put you into a racial group in Africa, and it is similar to that word called tetter. You see how that works? When you're ungrateful, when you're low down and ungrateful, God makes sure He take care of you. God makes sure you spend 40 years getting a fat zero when you simply all you had to do was stand on Negro and get the claim across the finish line, then go back to self-identifying. But you couldn't do that. That was asking you brain dead folks too much. You just wouldn't do that. So now you have 40 years of failure. 40 years of failure. It's just unbelievable. But y'all folks have been giving up, especially Big Chief CR the Great. He has been determined to try to paint the narrative that Negroes got reclassified to Negro. Oh no, CR the Great, there's a DNA test out there for Negro. I want you to, what is your DNA test that proves what you're saying out your mouth? I want to see that DNA test. I want proof of your lying narrative. If you cannot show proof of your lying narrative, then I know it's a lying narrative. But y'all didn't know that there was a DNA test for Negro when y'all was running around here lying. Y'all didn't know that. But it's true. It's true. There's a DNA test for Negro bloodline. And there's a Negro land over there. Do y'all think there's going to be a landmass called Negro land, and there's not going to be any Negro people walking the face of the earth? Do that really make logical sense to you? I just need for folks to answer that question. There's a whole landmass called Negro land, and so you're supposed to convince folks that no human beings ever habitated that landmass? Y'all can't be serious. Y'all really cannot be serious. Y'all convinced a lot of folks of that lie. Y'all are really good at convincing some people to swallow that lie. But my mother didn't raise no brain dead child. She didn't raise any brain dead children. It was 7 of us, and not one of us are brain dead. My mother made sure that I think she would have gotten us taken us to get help if she thought we were brain dead. She clearly knew her 7 children were functioning with a brain. They were critical thinkers. It was a requirement in the household. It was just a downright requirement because we were constantly challenging each other. I mean, you wouldn't last long if you did not have critical thinking. I mean, from the time you was 8, 9, 10 years old. It was just that way. That's all I remember. I clearly have a memory of that. There's a lot of things that I have forgotten in my memory, but I clearly remember that part. I clearly remember it like it was yesterday. So, y'all folks are getting what you deserve. I'm just here to tell you. You folks are getting what you deserve because you was too ungrateful to identify as Negro. You were too ungrateful to fight for Negro when the OMB gave you 3 days to call in and tell the OMB how you wanted to identify. The OMB read off to you for 3 straight days. They read to you. They said, I want to remove Negro. And do you know you folks sat there and listened to that OMB panel read to you why they wanted to remove Negro? And as soon as you got your 2 minutes to talk, you told the OMB you wanted to be Black American. You told the OMB you wanted to be African American. You told the OMB you wanted to be ADOS. You told the OMB that you wanted to be FBA. You told the OMB that you wanted to be Freeman. So why are you crying today? I would like to understand why you ungrateful human beings are crying today. You had your opportunity to shove down the throat of the OMB your ancestors' sacrifice, and it was more important for you to self-identify. So you got some gall. Each of you have some gall when you said out your own mouth and no one had a gun in your head. You had your opportunity to tell the OMB, I am going to shove Negro down your throat, OMB, because you have the audacity to think you have the right to remove it. But none of that came out of your folks' mouth because it wasn't important enough to you. It wasn't important enough. But the Negroes are going to have the last laugh. The Negroes are going to have the last laugh for all you ungrateful human beings. And you folks need to get on an airplane. You need to book a plane ticket and get on an airplane and fly to Africa and try to find that racial group. Somebody needs to volunteer, seeing as how you folks love volunteering to have these events. You just had a Juneteenth event and no one, I bet you my life on it, nobody mentioned Negro. You see how fake and pretense you folks are? When you be ungrateful, you get your reward. That's life. That's just plain old life. When you show ungratefulness, God is going to take care of you. And you folks don't believe that's the case. I think y'all just don't believe there's a higher power than your individual power in your individual body. I don't think y'all believe that. So keep on not believing it. Just keep right on believing it, and you're going to get your just due. You're going to continue to get your just due. Just keep right on telling yourself not to believe it. And you will continue to fail. You will continue to get a fat zero, because Negro is the only term that can get the Negro ancestors their debt paid. But y'all don't care about that. Y'all care more about the term Black American and African American and freedmen and ADOS and FBA and Black American Negro freedmen. Y'all making up new terms. There's no such thing as Black American Negro freedmen. Somebody made it up. And y'all are on these apps harming other young people with that when you say that, so they're gonna grow up confused. Y'all think y'all saying something, but only just imagine if young people are listening in the audience. If they are young people listening in the audience, they are going to be more confused because you people keep coming up with new terms anytime you feel like it. Now you got a new one called Black American Negro Freedmen. Well, you know it's not recognized at the local, state, or federal level, but you continue to say it out your mouth day after day. And I just sit back and think, I wonder how many young people or other people are in the audience who are going to be confused because you persons are constantly saying out your mouth all these terms mean the same thing when you know you're lying. That's a bald-faced lie. They don't all mean the same thing. America don't recognize them meaning the same thing. And that don't seem to matter to y'all because y'all own self-interest and y'all own self-feel-good feeling means more than fighting for what is recognized at the local, state, and federal level. That don't matter to you, ungrateful human beings. Negro was in existence for over 300 years. Let's all say it together. Negro was the Negro ancestors' identity, ethnicity, race, all together in one, because that's how America recognized it until they got into the 21st century or the 1900s and wanted to do a switcheroo. They wanted to wash that blood off of their hands, and so they knew they needed to get rid of Negro, because they're not spending any energy trying to get rid of Black American. They're not spending any energy and time trying to get rid of African American. All you smart people should have knew. A bell should have went off in your head. Why are they so bent and determined to get rid of Negro? It's not because you persons felt it was offensive or it was outdated. Y'all convinced yourself of that, and y'all fell right into their little agenda. Y'all fell right into their little trap. America wanted to wash the blood off of their hands. They wanted to insert Germans as being indentured servants during those 246 years. They wanted to insert Irish people as being indentured servants during those first 246 years. So y'all helped America be able to rewrite 246 years. Y'all done that. Y'all done that voluntarily. And they in the process of rewriting it. In about 5 years, if Negro is not saved, if you wake up in 5 years from today, it's going to be like Negro slavery never happened. They're going to have been replaced it as indentured servant that took place, that built America, that built the wealth, that built the infrastructure. See how you folks have lost everything your ancestors fought and died for. You lost it. All because you wanted to self-identify. You lost all of that. And you persons, God is not going to reward that. All of you persons who learned the truth. Now, those persons who did not learn the truth, they don't have any fault. But all you persons who've been on Clubhouse, fan base, and Twitter land for the past 2 years, you knew the truth. You knew the truth when the OMB opened up that website for 75 days. You knew the truth when they gave you the opportunity to call in for 3 days. You knew the truth. And you allowed everything that your ancestors fought and died for to go down the drain because of your own self-interest, your own self-agenda. And God said, if your self-interest and your self-agenda is more important than those first 246 years, God said, I'm going to take care of you ungrateful people. I'm going to make you a racial group in Africa. You're not going to have an identity on earth because you were ungrateful. I'm going to keep repeating it. When you're ungrateful, you don't get rewarded. You had an opportunity to fight to save Negro for your ancestors. Every one of those days that they slaved sun up to sundown, you had an opportunity to shove it down the OMB and America and the whole world's throat, and you passed up on it. You passed up on it because you didn't have enough backbone to understand that moment was bigger than any of us. There's those moments in life that are bigger than what you can imagine. And some people get to live through them, and some people never live to experience it. That time, that very moment, was bigger than all of us. And those of us who say it Negro in our mouth, we clearly understood to a certain extent how big it was. But when the OMB removed Negro on the 28th of March, 2024, and you think back to that time frame, and you start to really grasp the reality, that moment was bigger than any moment that we had lived through. A moment like what our ancestors had went through. And some people get to have that opportunity to live through one of those moments. And you sorry human beings didn't recognize that because of your own self-interest, your own self-agenda, your own importance of self-identifying. That moment in time was a moment in time that each of us needed to recognize. Each of us needed to recognize that. And it didn't happen. It did not happen. And you persons, I'm going to say in closing, I'm going to jump off of here. You may have a second opportunity by the time 2026 rolls around. They planning on having a meeting in 2026. So between now and 2026, you need to be plastering Negro on everything that you print and say out your mouth. If you care about saving your ancestors' history, then you'll get busy doing that. I don't think y'all going to do it. I don't think you had a backbone to do it. But that meeting is going to take place in 2026. So between now and 2026, you need to be shoving Negro down America's throat. You need to be shoving Negro down the OMB. You need to be shoving Negro down the whole world's throat if you got the backbone. I don't think y'all folks have the backbone to do it. And that's why God is going to keep right on delivering you your just due. God is going to do that because Negroes are God's chosen people, not any people called Black Americans or any people called African Americans or any people called ADOS or any people called freedmen or any people called FBA. In the Bible, it's spelled out that Negroes are God's chosen people. Let's all say it together. Negro bloodline is God's chosen people, not anyone calling themselves Black American, African American, FBA, freedmen, and ADOS. You persons have removed yourself from God's chosen people. Y'all folks are batting a record here. You folks are really batting a record here. Because when the day comes and we stand before God, God gonna ask you why you felt you were too good to identify as Negro. What's gonna be your answer? You were too good to identify as Negro. And then you're gonna think that God is gonna welcome you in as the chosen people because you chose to identify differently. Biology don't work that way, first of all. Biology don't work that way, first of all. Biology don't work that way, first of all. So if you ungrateful human beings are claiming you are descendants of Negroes and you are deserving of reparations, then if you are descendants of Negroes, that make you a Negro. Don't it? Y'all thought y'all was going to be able to make up y'all little definition. Descendants of chattel slavery. You're going to make up your own definition. Descendants of chattel slavery. Descendants of Black American, descendants of chattel slavery. You thought you was going to get that to fly in America, this evil country? This evil country? Did y'all really convince yourself with that lie? If you really wanted to win your case, you used the very evidence that your enemy provided to you. The very evidence was Negro slavery. The term. That's the only one missing. Are y'all that slow and dumb? Oh, no, y'all not that slow and dumb. You're not that slow and dumb. You just care more about your own self-interest. You care more about your own self-agenda. You care more about your own self-identifying. And so now, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it by getting a fat zero. And America has done it one step further. They have made you a non-existent human being. I've been telling you persons on my last few broadcasts, you're going to end up like Palestinians if you're not careful. You're playing with fire. You persons are playing with fire here. My paperwork says Negro. I don't know if that'll give me a fighting chance when it gets down to the nuts and bolts. At least I know I got some paperwork that say Negro. But you persons are playing with fire. You are getting a prelude of what's going on in Palestine. That's what the Jews have in store for all you persons who don't have an identity right now. Because these immigrants that you're picking on, they got an identity. Y'all better get y'all ducks in order. Because these immigrants, they safe. Let's just make it simple. All these immigrants are safe. They have all three. I'm going to repeat them again before I get off of here. They have a recognized ethnicity. Number 2, they have a recognized national origin. Number 3, they have a nation. You persons better stop playing with fire and stop lying to your people. You had best stop doing it because this is a matter of life and death now. Y'all are playing with fire. Y'all are playing with fire. And you need to stop doing it because you're going to pay a healthy price if you don't get that definition changed on the OMB. You persons had best start spending every waking moment to get that definition changed and stop lying to people. Because Negro is the only, if you are from a Negro bloodline, because I'm not on this broadcast claiming that everybody is Negro, but if you got the paperwork of tracing your family member back to the 1860 census report, if you have the ability to trace one family member back to being a part of slavery, then more than likely that one of your family member was one of those 4 million that was emancipated. I don't know. I have traced my one family member back to a plantation. I don't know what to tell you folks, but you are playing with fire. If you ain't got paperwork, if you do not have paperwork that traces back to one family member on the 1860 census report as being a slave, then I don't know what to tell you. But C.R. the Great can stop lying. Because like I said earlier, my DNA only has 1% indigenous. So I'm not the only walking human being that have the DNA test that show a small snippet of indigenous. Because see, they lie had to be proven. God was going to make sure of that. And like I said, C.R. the Great, Negro ancestors had nothing to do with your people deciding to stay behind and not go to one of those reservations. That's not my fault. That's not my mother's fault. That's not my grandfather's fault. That's not my great-great-great-grandfather's fault. You need to talk to your people and find out why they decided to stay behind and not go to one of those reservations. Because, see, I heard Sonny G explained that out of his own mouth. I'm not going by hearsay. I heard him explain it with my own 2 ears. That's not my fault. Your claim is separate. Your indigenous claim is separate from the Negro claim, and you persons have done great harm to damage the Negro ancestors' justice claim. Y'all have done enough damage. Okay? Be happy with that. You have done enough damage. The freedman has done enough damage. Go do y'all separate claims, because my paperwork don't say freedman, my paperwork don't say indigenous. My paperwork don't say freedman, my paperwork don't say indigenous. So I don't have anything to do with your claim. I don't have anything to do with your family tree. I don't have anything to do with your family relatives. I don't have anything to do with it. So don't waste any more time off of your life trying to paint that narrative, because it's just not going to fly. DNA is not going to support it. So if your lying narrative was true, my DNA test should have came back saying 10% indigenous or 20% indigenous or 30% indigenous. It did not come back saying that. And now that you persons know that there's a DNA test out there for Negro bloodline, y'all are really, really crying hard now, because y'all thought y'all was having a good old party dumping on Negro. I watched you folks have a good old party for well over a year and a half. Now y'all found out that there's really, really, really is a DNA test for the Negro bloodline. Negroes are going to have the last laugh. That's what happens when people lie. It always come back full circle. It always come back to bite you. If you stand on truth, you ain't got no worries. But when you stand on lies, they will come back around to bite you. And they will come back around and your lies will be proven to be a lie. So it's just advisable to stand on truth. And if you don't know the truth, don't say anything. Just keep on doing your research until you find out what you're searching for. But don't get on a public app and paint lying narratives, because it's going to be somebody out there is going to do the research and prove you a liar. It's just going to happen, especially with the internet being invented. I wouldn't embarrass myself like that. It was a time when you could lie and nobody could probably research and prove it. But that time is long gone. People can prove that you lie now. They can search it in a matter of minutes. In a matter of minutes, they can search out your lie. They can be sitting in a Twitter space and hear you say something out your mouth, and then they can take a little, they can shimmy on over to Google or ChatGPT or all these other different things and research your lie and have a reply back in less than a few minutes. Less than a few minutes. So I don't know why y'all folks still running around here lying. You do know folks can research stuff now, don't you? You do know technology has advanced, that folks know how to research lies. Why are you still doing it? I guess you don't. See, my mom told me when I was young, she said people who lie, they get to a point where they start believing their own lies. And she never spoke more of the truth. She told me that when I was young. Because I had a lying sister. I grew up with a lying sister. I detest liars. But my sister was a lying person. She could size you up in a blink of an eye. And she could tell some whoppers. She could really tell some whoppers. And I used to constantly get in battles with her because she lied all the time. She constantly lied. So my mom told me one day, she said, Aquilin, when you meet liars, a lying person will lie for so long, they will start believing their lies. And she was telling the truth. She was telling the truth. I tell you not. I kid you not. She told me the truth. And I started recognizing that as I grew up. every time I would encounter a person like that, I will remember that conversation with my mother. Each and every time I encounter a notorious liar, that little recording would play in my head. Mom told you that you would meet persons like that, and I would just let it play in my head, and I'd go on about my merry business. So y'all folks are gonna get what's coming to you. I'm going to say again, all you persons who are identifying as Black Americans and African Americans, you need to get on an airplane and fly to Africa and find that racial group. You need to force the OMB to change that definition, because as it stands right now, the immigrants have more rights than Black Americans and African Americans. That's why they've been getting all the benefits. That's why America has told them America is built, it's a nation of immigrants. You see how all that connects? These diabolical human beings are so bold now. They don't gotten so bold because they say, well, we don't have to bite our tongue anymore. We can just say it out loud and proud that America is a nation of immigrants. See how that works? You are not recognized. You are somewhere over on the African continent in a racial group. But these immigrants are recognized on America's landmass ahead of you. All because you folks care more about self-identifying. You care more about that word called Black American and African American. And see, that's how it was more important than you fighting for your birthright. God delivered you. God delivered you your just due. That's what God decided to do. That you persons proved over and over again that you were ungrateful and too good to identify as Negro, and fight for the history of your ancestors, all those persons who sacrificed for 246 years. That was not important enough for you to fight for that. So God said, I'm going to pay them, I'm going to repay them for being ungrateful. And God did that. That's what God did. So if you don't want your children and grandkids and great-grandkids to go through 54 more years of harm, then you need to figure out which one is more important to you. You self-identifying or fighting for the history of your ancestors. You're going to have to make a difficult choice. All you ungrateful human beings who want so desperately to hold on to Black American and African American with a death grip, you got to decide. Each one of you have to decide, because if you're not careful, you are going to end up like the Palestinians. This is no time to be playing. This is no time to be playing and not having an identity. Once Israel gets done with Palestinian, you're going to be the next target. Don't you see the hate crime bill that they're trying to get passed? They're giving you all the signals. I don't know if you persons really apply critical thinking.